G'day, I'm Chris Reid, CEO of Neometals, and I'm joined today by Jeremy McManus, our General Manager of Commercial and Investor Relations. Neometals is a project developer based in Australia. We are developing projects in the minerals and materials required for a sustainable future. We have a number of projects in the supply chain for lithium-ion batteries for the EV and energy storage sectors. We have projects from recycling, materials recovery, through to the production of the upstream mineral concentrates.
Well, thanks, Chris, and hello, Jeremy. Good to see you guys again. Thought I'd check in with you guys because there's been a lot of press releases thrown out over the past, well, I think we saw you in the middle of May, the past 6 weeks or so. So busy times. What's happening? It feels like you're sort of tidying things up a bit.
Yeah, not necessarily intentionally tidying things up, but we've certainly been busy. And part of that is I think we've always said that once our projects get mature enough and they can stand on their own 2 feet, there's no reason they shouldn't, to the extent it's good for our shareholders. So look, at a really high level, I think the last time we spoke, we talked about some nickel results where we had palladium in our nickel concentrates, and we also had some cost numbers. So that was back in May. Since then, we have done so we'll start with battery recycling. We did a deal on the recycling with a Canadian company called Stelco, an MOU towards a JV on recycling batteries, end-of-life batteries specifically. And we've also announced very recently that we've started off the commissioning of our showcase demonstration facility in Germany. So that's what we've done on the recycling front. On our nickel exploration ground, further to those palladium results, we announced our intention to spin out that project into a dedicated ASX-listed vehicle. And we've also put out a big raft of resource updates for a lot of the individual deposits that comprise the Mount Edwards project. And also our lithium hydroxide project, I nearly forgot, but it's not insignificant. We sold or disposed of our offtake rights from the Mount Marion mine, and we did that in exchange for 30 million Australian dollars. So there's no question, in effect, we have cleaned things up a little bit. The story's become simpler, and there's now more projects that are oriented towards materials recovery and ESG and sustainability for sure.
So Chris, Mount Marion, $30 million in the bank now. Why did you do that? Did you need the cash?
So look, we had offtake rights for Mount Marion, and that was what we considered part of the baseload feed for looking at downstream. We could only use our offtake rights to downstream as principal. We couldn't trade the spodumene concentrates, so we had to really use it in use. And so we had a look at that, and then when we were studying building a 25,000 ton plant in India, and we found that we needed to supplement that feed to fill the plant. We could produce about 7,500-8,000 tons of lithium chemicals, but we needed to find enough feedstocks to get the rest. And obviously the lithium market has changed. The spodumene market's gone from 375 up to 650. So there's just not that availability, and it's very, very tight. And we received an offer from our partners, the only people that could buy it, which are our former partners. And it was, we negotiated and we achieved what we think is a very, very good outcome. So, that adds to the total that we've made out of Mount Marion, and it's a pretty handy amount. We've got, as Jeremy said, that narrows our focus by we've put the downstreaming ambitions on hold in a holding pattern at the moment. We have also, so if you're looking at sort of the strategic priorities for Neometals going forward, we put out, since we last chatted, the class 4 OPEX and CAPEX for the lithium battery recycling project, and it's very, very economic. And what's more important, it is very, very scalable to larger sizes, and we're studying both the 200 and the 20,000 tonne options. And we've now done that MOU with Stelco, and we can look at multiple plants. So it's not like a one-off mine. We're now looking at replicating hub and spokes in North America. You know, we've got an MOU with Itochu. We're looking at doing our own plant originally in Germany. But, you know, we're very cognizant that the way the market's going, we're going to have to build a hub and spoke operation in continental Europe. So that's a business where you can build lots of plants and bigger plants with fantastic economics. So that's got to be a priority, right? You know, that whole battery recycling, nickel's a major product, followed by cobalt, followed by lithium. And if we just look at how competitive it would be the lowest cost nickel producer in the world. Okay. So you've got to scale that up.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm kind of really interested in the decision making at, you know, board level. You know, where you're having these conversations about. Lithium's gone up in price, doubled. The numbers you mentioned there doubled, but you know the forecast suggests it's going to double again. There's not enough lithium around. So people like Jack Lifton out there. Why does it make sense to cash in now at this price versus just sitting on that, because someone will buy it for a lot more further down the line, surely?
Well, no. When you say someone, we can only sell it to our former partners.
Right.
So if they're not wanting to buy it, I can't sell it to a third party. So there's a very unique set of circumstances that eventuated, and so we have to sit down there and take a view on what it's worth.
Right.
In use. But, you know, we would have had to have spent our share of hundreds of millions of dollars to build a lithium converting plant in India.
Okay, I hear you.
So, I mean, we go through disciplined evaluation and disciplined capital management. So, you know, we're limited by time, we're limited by money. Look, fortunately, we've got very, very good people. We've got a fantastic balance sheet, right, to prosecute our projects. But we've got to prioritize them. You've got to have a common set of filters and a procedure to run through. And so, you know, we use a very disciplined risk reward sort of matrix. And so, you know, the nickel asset, for one, and we're going to demerge that and return that back. It is getting hidden. We are not getting value for it, but because it sits behind the battery recycling, it sits behind the vanadium recovery project. It sits behind Barrambie. So, you know, you've got lowest cost nickel producer from battery recycling, lowest carbon footprint. The vanadium project is highest purity vanadium, lowest quartile costs in the world, lowest carbon footprint. Barrambie, you've got the second highest grade hard rock titanium vanadium deposit in the world, in a market where Rio's just mothballed the biggest individual titanium contributor to the world supply. And China is transitioning from sulfate pigment to chloride pigment. We're running out. Prices have doubled, right, in the last year. So behind that embarrassment of riches, you've got a nickel project that is, you know, we're going to return that back to the shareholders and give them the opportunity. It's their asset. So we're just giving it back to them. We think we can't give it the best value sitting in Neometals. We can give it its own identity. We've got a board and a management team that can prosecute the plan that we take to shareholders in the entitlement. So they'll get, for every X number of Neometal shares, they'll get a free share in Widgie nickel. They'll get the opportunity to maintain that relative equity position in subscribing for new ones, or they don't. It's totally up to them. But you know, we've got 160,000 nickel metal tons in 11 nickel sulfide deposits, 50 kilometers from BHP's nickel concentrator, that has excess capacity, lots of excess capacity that we could potentially feed into over time. We're very, very confident about the EV thematic, what's going to happen to nickel. We think it's probably a little tail-ended towards the middle of the decade, and that gives the business a couple of years to do the hard work to get this ready. We've done the hard work for Barrambie when the market's been soft. And so, you know, it's got a mining proposal. It's got ministerial approval to do the construction plant. We're doing the trial mining. We're sending it to China. We're trying to get an offtake and a build, own, operate, just like we did at Mount Marion, and give that a life too. So, but the least developed one, even though it's advanced, is the nickel project. So it will, and it'll be attractively priced on a peer metric basis. It will be successful.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at, Chris. Is as an investor looking in here, and I use the phrase I think with Jeremy at the beginning, which is like you've been doing a little bit of tidying up, because your phrase was embarrassment of riches, but it was also, there was a lot of moving parts, and I think that to the story, and I think that was part of the problem, that people didn't quite know where to look, and I sense now, and if I look at the share price, it doubled since the beginning of the year. People are starting to understand this. So okay, I get the valuation, Marion, it makes sense. $30 million in the bank now. Good deal. You feel that's a good deal, right? You spent some time thinking about that. Spinning out of Mount Edwards, the Widgie project, there's a good deal for shareholders, but also it's just kind of taking a few things off the table so people can get a little bit focused. And that's what I noticed when I was looking in all of these press releases, and I think it's a good thing. I really do think it's a good thing.
Yeah. So you go down from 5 projects to 3, and we ramp up the expenditure.
Absolutely.
On these, because these projects are in the final stages. So the battery recycling business with SMS called Primobius GmbH, as Jeremy said, we're just commissioning the demonstration plant. Now we'll run the demonstration trials, finish those at the end of September, put out the class 3 or feasibility study level OPEX and CAPEX, finalize a feasibility decision, and at this stage we're looking to finish that in the March quarter and consider an FID on or around the end of March 2022. The the vanadium recovery project, we are currently running the pilot plant. That's in excess of halfway through. We will then move straight into the class 3 engineering cost study. That'll be finished 30 June. Fantastic economics that we put out, a couple of months ago. And so the class 3 study finished 30 June 2022 with an FID December 2022. So, your 2 big materials recovery and recycling projects, lowest carbon footprint for the battery materials. The vanadium will be a negative carbon footprint at this juncture. Battery grade cathode materials for precursors, being produced, very environmentally friendly flow sheets, the battery flow sheet, there's no NOx into the atmosphere, any water will be RO drinkable. And our biggest tailings is ammonium sulfate fertilizer. In the vanadium project, we're capturing CO2 from emissions. We're leaching in a carbonic acid, and the tailings is an inert carbon material that we're looking to put into building products. Right. So, if you can find 2 projects that tick as many real ESG boxes, please tell me so I can invest in them. Right. And then the third focus is a traditional mineral project, right, that we're good at. And, it's the world's 2nd highest grade hard rock titanium vanadium project. And we're looking to make a simple truck and shovel operation, multi-stage crushing through spirals to produce a gravity concentrate, truck that to Geraldton, export that to China, and the Chinese will buy it and smelt it and produce titanium slag and an iron vanadium slag. That's it in a nutshell. It is, and so, in terms of reward, risk, the capital return, we've got a fantastic balance sheet. We're looking to, we've committed to listing on the AIM. That'll happen most likely in October. It would be my most likely timing. And that's our sort of center of operations is Germany for the battery recycling, and then North America next, but Finland for the vanadium recovery project. So we need to be to tap into those equity and debt providers that are of the green tinge in Europe, and so hence why we're doing a compliance listing on AIM.
Okay, it's a much simpler story. 3 moving parts now that are meaningfully advanced since when we since the beginning of the year. If you don't mind, with Mount Edwards, I know they're putting a prospectus out, and you're going to put a presentation out, and you can tell people a little bit more about it. And please come on and tell us about it when that happens. But can you tell me now, is Neometals going to have any financial obligations to that demerged entity?
No, well, we're obviously putting money into it at the same price that the shareholders would be putting money into it to get it through that listing process. And we envisage that the entitlements issue to raise the money will be underwritten. But we do live in a volatile world, and we will be a backstop. It is a demerger of a Neometals asset. We will not abandon it if the capital markets have a hiccup. But its best chance of generating and realizing value for the shareholders is in a discrete nickel-focused business that can be compared amongst its peers and be well funded. And they'll basically, they'll do. I mean, one of the beauties about that project is 10 million tons of nickel mineralization for 160,000 nickel metal tons. About 2/3 of that's in the inferred category. So you have to go through and drill that out, infill and extend, right? So that'll grow and we'll get higher confidence. But the beauty of it is that 90% of the assays, the historic assays, and most of them Western Mining, never assayed for anything other than nickel. No PGMs, no cobalt, copper in the databases. And so we'll be doing the infill drilling. Not only will we get nickel assays, we will get copper, cobalt, platinum, palladium, and gold. So, what we have proven in multiple deposits now, that they coexist within the nickel sulfide ore bodies and that they deport to the concentrate and they are recovered. And there's a positive correlation. The higher the nickel grade, the higher the PGM grades. I mean, it is just such a fantastic opportunity. And you've got four historic mines, right? And all of those historic mines have got remnant resources, and they are part of the 11 deposits that we've got, right? So, it's a fantastic camp, unbelievable land holdings, 300 square kilometres. All the resources are on granted mining leases. These guys are just going to have a ball, spending money, drilling, doing the test work. There's just going to be so many multiple re-rating events as they, add these other metals into the resources and prove that you can recover them and prove the economics and do the, pre-feasibility study and start doing the approvals and get ready to mine this thing. Because I can tell you, that these deposits, they have been mined before and they will be mined again.
Okay, well, come back on with the team and tell us a little bit about that when it gets going. But here's perhaps the most important question, which is, what's a Widgie?
Widgie Malta is the town.
Okay.
Right, so we call it Widgie for short because it's very, very long.
Right.
Yeah, it's an Aboriginal word. I'm not so sure I'm entirely up the curve on what it means.
It's something to do with an emu.
Yeah, I think it is because the logo looks a bit like an emu.
Right. Okay.
Or an emu's beak.
Emu's beak. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, there you go. I was worried because I looked it up and it says a Widgie is a young woman from the 50s with a penchant for American fashion and rock and roll music. I wasn't sure where you were going.
And there'd be nothing wrong with that either. That would be. I could accept that as a rationale.
Either way, I'm just saying your web designers have got some options there. Brilliant, guys. Look, nice to catch up. It sounds like you should come back on and tell us about with the new team with regards to what's happening at Mount Edwards with Widgie. I'm particularly keen to get these updates with regards to the demo plant. I know you're commissioning the demo plant now, and give us an update on timings if that is going to change at any point, because things seem to be moving quite quickly in Europe. Yeah,
so I mean, look, the three things I'd leave you with is, we're looking at FIDs for our first battery recycling plant in the first half of next year. All things going well, Barrambie in the first half of the next year, and the vanadium recovery is the end of next year. So, we 2022 is going to be a watershed year for Neometals.